Hello everyone, Shion here. So today I'll be showing you how you can recover your funds that were unable to be bridged on Gateway. So Gateway provides an escape hatch mechanism where if your transfer is unable to be delivered, maybe because the transaction fee is now insufficient for request delivery, or maybe your timeout has now expired, then Gateway allows you to withdraw your funds from the bridge. And let's quickly take a look at how that works. So first, I'm going to select the BSC network because it has faster finality. And then for destination, I'll use Sepolia. Next, we are going to set a low transaction timeout in seconds. The default is 3 hours, but for this, I will be putting 3 minutes. This will allow my request to time out very quickly, and I can demonstrate the recovery mechanism for you guys. I'll just put 500 hyper dollars as the amount, and as you can see, everything's good. We make the transfer. I'm just going to sign the transfer with my MetaMask, and we should begin our transaction progress like we're familiar with. Just going to skip ahead, waiting for BSC to finalize my transaction. Of course, this doesn't take very long. And once that's done, a relayer will also try to deliver my transaction to Hyperbridge as in usual fashion. This also doesn't take long. And now we're going to wait for Hyperbridge to finalize my transaction. But because of my timeout, my request will time out before Hyperbridge is able to finalize my transaction. And I'm just going to skip ahead here and you can see what happens. Right, so my transaction was unable to be finalized because it had now been timed out. It says I should begin fund recovery, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to begin funds recovery. So first, it seems we have to wait for Ethereum to finalize our transaction timeout. This is because our transaction has now timed out at the current Ethereum block, but we now have to wait for that current block to be finalized by the Ethereum network. Ethereum's finality, of course, takes around 20-25 minutes, so we have to wait for that. And so that once the block is finalized, it can then be sent to Hyperbridge, and Hyperbridge can now receive what is our own transaction timeout. And I'll go into this a bit later on, but basically we also have to time out our transaction on Hyperbridge as well. And this doesn't take very long. Right. So let's quickly actually take a look at what happened in our transaction timeout on Hyperbridge. Okay, so let's look at the extrinsic. So we can see we sent a timeout message to Hyperbridge, and it's for the Ethereum execution layer, and we submitted a proof. That proof was only available because we waited for Ethereum to finalize our timeout. And we also see that the nonce is associated with that timeout. And let's go look at our transaction and see the nonce that's in our transaction. And we see that they're basically the same nonce. So we've now timed out that request on Hyperbridge. And now Hyperbridge will have to finalize that timeout so that we can recover our funds on the source chain. So we'll skip ahead here as well, and waiting for Hyperbridge to time out our transaction. All right, perfect. So now Hyperbridge has finalized our transaction timeout, and we can begin our fund recovery. It's going to need me to sign the message with my MetaMask, unlike when I send a transaction. And so I can confirm, and immediately we see that the transaction is now available. We can take a look at the logs, and we can see that I have now recovered the amount that I sent, which was 500 hyper dollars. But more importantly, I've also recovered the amount that I put up for the relayer fee as well. So that's also good. And we can just quickly go look at what exactly we signed. And it turns out that it's simply a handle post request timeout transaction. And we also provided the necessary proofs. And that's how you time out, able to recover your transactions on Gateway. We can go back and we can see that my funds basically remains unchanged.